The cold metallic walls of the Zervian breeding facility hummed with artificial light. Rows of pods lined the cavernous space, each containing a female of the proud and noble Thalor race. Once warriors, diplomats, and scholars, the Thalor had fallen from grace, their entire civilization conquered by the brutal Xyphar Dominion. Arya had never known freedom. Born into captivity, she had been raised with one purpose: to propagate the Thalor lineage under the control of their conquerors. The Xyphar, a reptilian species devoid of empathy, had turned her people into nothing more than breeders, their strong genetic traits exploited to create a new generation of hybrid warriors. Tonight was the night she dreaded most. She had been assigned to a new mate, another soulless pairing determined by the Xyphar. Her heart pounded as the guards approached her cell, their scales gleaming under the sterile lights. But something was different this time. Instead of one of the genetically compatible Thalor males selected by the Dominion, a new figure stood beyond the threshold, a human. His name was Daniel Carter, a rogue soldier from the Terran Union, captured during a border skirmish. Unlike the Xyphar, his gaze held no malice, only defiance. His hands were bound, his jaw clenched in barely contained fury as he was shoved forward. "The human will mate with the Thalor," one of the guards hissed, his slit-pupil eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. An experiment in genetic variance. Arya's stomach churned. She had never met a human before, but she had heard whispers from the older captives, stories of their honor, their resistance against the Xyphar. And yet, here he was, thrust into the same nightmare she had endured for years. Once the guards left, the room fell into tense silence. Arya folded her arms over her chest, wary yet intrigued by the man before her. "I'm not doing this," Daniel said firmly, his deep voice a low growl. "I don't care what they threaten me with." Her throat tightened at his words. No Thalor male had ever refused before. Fear of retribution made them comply. The Xyphar's punishments were cruel beyond measure. Yet this human, with no obligation to her people, stood firm in his defiance. Arya exhaled, forcing herself to remain composed. "Then they'll kill you," she murmured. "Better than betraying myself." A flicker of something unfamiliar stirred in her chest. She had spent years believing there was no choice, no way out. But Daniel was proof that defiance was possible. The intercom crackled, interrupting the silence. "You have 1 hour. Failure to comply will result in termination." Daniel smirked darkly. "Yeah, well, they can go to hell." Arya's heart pounded. If they refused, the Xyphar would kill them both. If they complied, she would lose another piece of herself. But perhaps there was another way. "Escape," she whispered. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "They monitor this place like a fortress." "I know the facility," she countered. "I've studied every shift rotation, every patrol route. There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the surface." His eyes locked onto hers. "You're serious?" She nodded. "I'd rather die fighting than live like this." A slow grin spread across his face. "I like you already." The escape. The next hour was spent planning. Arya outlined the routes, the security systems, and the timing. Daniel, a trained soldier, fine-tuned the details, his strategic mind turning her vague plan into a precise operation. As soon as the next shift change occurred, they made their move. Daniel overpowered the guard that brought their next meal, snapping his neck with ruthless efficiency. Arya took his key card, leading them through the winding corridors. Alarms blared as they neared the maintenance tunnel, the Xyphar responding with deadly force. They ran. Daniel covered her as she hacked into the security system, her fingers flying over the interface. As the door hissed open, a plasma blast seared past them, barely missing Arya's shoulder. Daniel returned fire with the stolen weapon, taking down 2 guards before yanking her through the hatch. The underground tunnels stretched for miles, damp and suffocating. They pushed forward, adrenaline and desperation fueling them. Behind them, the Xyphar pursued relentlessly, the battle for freedom. When they finally reached the surface, the twin moons of Xyphar, Prime, hung low in the sky, illuminating the vast desert before them. A stolen Xyphar scout ship rested at the edge of the compound. If they could reach it, they had a chance. But the Xyphar were waiting. A towering warlord stepped forward, his crimson armor gleaming. "You dare defy the Dominion?" his voice boomed. Arya clenched her fists. "I am not your property." Daniel leveled his weapon. "And I'm not your damn experiment." The warlord laughed, drawing a massive energy blade. "Then die." The battle was brutal. Arya fought with the desperation of a caged animal finally tasting freedom. Daniel was a whirlwind of destruction, his human reflexes proving unpredictable to the Xyphar's rigid combat styles. But the warlord was strong, too strong. A devastating blow sent Arya sprawling, pain exploding through her ribs. The warlord loomed over her, blade raised for the killing strike. Then a gunshot rang out. Daniel, bloodied but standing, had taken a shot. The warlord stumbled back, crimson seeping through his armor. With a final snarl, he collapsed. Daniel staggered, his breath ragged. Arya caught him before he fell. "We have to go." He nodded weakly, allowing her to support him as they stumbled toward the scout ship. With the last of her strength, she powered it up, the engines roaring to life. As they lifted off, breaking through the planet's atmosphere, Arya felt the chains of her past fall away. A new beginning. Days later, in the safety of a Terran outpost, Arya sat beside Daniel as he recovered from his injuries. "I owe you my life," she murmured. He smirked, wincing slightly. "Guess that makes us even." She hesitated before speaking again. "I don't know what comes next. My people, they're still out there. Still enslaved." His expression turned serious. "Then we fight for them." A fire ignited in her chest. She had spent her life believing she had no choice. Now, she knew better. Together, they would return, and they would burn the Dominion to the ground.